Looks as if one of Warren Buffett's two younger lieutenants at Berkshire Hathaway, NYSE BRKA, NYSE BRKB, just made a large deep value investment. Ted Weschler, who joined Berkshire in 2011, recently disclosed that he had personally bought 1.08 million shares of Dillard's, NYSE DDS, the beleaguered department store, good for 5.89% of its outstanding shares. We don't know exactly when Weschler had been buying, though we do know that he crossed the 5% mark on September 29, necessitating a filing. Of note, Weschler made this purchase personally, and not as part of Berkshire's equity portfolio. Dillard's had seen relatively lackluster business even before COVID-19 hit, which caused an even bigger drop in sales. Moreover, the company was removed from the S&P Mid-Cap 400 index in June, as its market cap plunged below $1 billion after the stock has fallen a whopping 43% this year. So what has Weschler believing Dillard's is a real value? And not the next J.C. Penney-type bankruptcy. Here are 3 reasons to believe in Dillard's as a deep value pick. Owning its own real estate. Unlike just about every other major retailer out there, Dillard's has chosen the route of owning its own real estate at most of its locations, rather than leasing. Dillard's has its own in-house general contractor that it pays for construction, which further saves on costs. That strategy is more capital expensive and may slow down the rollout of new stores, but it also allows a company to save on rent expenses over time. Perhaps most importantly, real estate value tends to appreciate over time, giving the company assets it can sell when times get tough. That's just what Dillard's is doing. At the end of fiscal 2019, Dillard's owned 244 out of its 285 locations outright, owned the building on leased land at 10 other locations, and partially owned and partially leased 6 others, leaving just 25 locations where it leases its stores. The company also owns all of its distribution centers as well as its corporate headquarters. On the company's balance sheet, it counts nearly $1.39 billion in property and equipment, net of depreciation. That property, along with the company's liquid current assets, makes up most of its $1.37 billion in book value, which consists of these liquid assets minus Dillard's current liabilities and very manageable $365.8 million in debt, most of which matures 5 years or longer from now. Weschler might be seeing the company's real estate as hidden value for the stock, which currently has a market cap of only $940 million. And Dillard's has already doubled over its 52-week lows set back in July, when it's possible Weschler began taking a position. And the real estate story only gets better. But the real estate story gets even better when one considers the value of Dillard's real estate as recorded at cost on the balance sheet. Even in these tough times for retail real estate, those assets are likely to be much more valuable than the original cost of building those sites, which go back years or decades. In 2019, Dillard's sold 6 of its properties for $30.6 million, good for a gain of $20.3 million over cost. Extrapolating that out to Dillard's owned real estate portfolio, its 244 owned locations would be worth $1.25 billion. Of course, that doesn't count the company's partially owned properties, distribution centers, or headquarters. Applying the tripling in property value of these sold properties since construction to overall property and equipment gains on those properties could increase the value of the company's assets by $2.78 billion in a liquidation scenario, and book value would increase by about $2 billion net of tax. That would theoretically bring the company's real book value to just over $3 billion. Thus, Dillard's could actually be selling for as much as 30% of its liquidation value. That's most likely what Weschler sees as the big margin of safety. Like, share, subscribe.